Bonjour à tous and welcome to this video on the imperative. Now, as far as French grammatical moods go, the imperative is probably the easiest one to learn. However, we do have a few things that we need to go through. Starting with, of course, what is the imperative? And quite simply, the imperative is used to give a command or to make a suggestion. So for example, in English we can say, sit down, stop, or let's go. And in French, the conjugation of the imperative is very simple. At least for regular IR and RE verbs, the imperative forms are identical to the present tense indicative, apart from the fact that we don't include the subject pronoun. So, for example, finir is a regular IR verb meaning to finish, and its imperative forms are fini, finissons, and finissez, exactly the same as the present tense indicative. Similarly, attendre is a regular RE verb and it means to wait. Its imperative forms are attends, attendons, attendez. So if you know your present tense indicative, this is very easy. Now you notice that we only have three forms for the imperative, tu, nous, and vous, and that's simply because to give a command you have to be speaking to someone directly and therefore referring to them as you. So that's the tu and vous forms, and then you can also give a command to a group that you're a part of, like let's do something, hence there is also an imperative form for nous. So let's do some examples. Finish your homework. Finis tes devoirs. Finis tes devoirs. Let's finish our work. Finissons notre travail. Finissons notre travail. Wait for the bus here. Attends le bus ici. Attends le bus ici. And wait at the car park. Attendez au parking. Attendez au parking. So then of course we have regular ER verbs, which aren't too difficult themselves, but we have to remember that with the to form we remove the S from the present tense indicative. So for example, you stop is tu arrêtes with an S. In the imperative we remove that S. That is the only difference. So the imperative conjugation of arrêter is arrête without an S, arrêtons, arrêtez. Again, the nous and vous forms are exactly the same. Likewise, jouer meaning to play is joue without an S, jouons, and jouer. So let's do some examples with those. Stop it, that hurts. Arrête, ça fait mal. Arrête, ça fait mal. Play with your friends. Joue avec tes amis. Joue avec tes amis. It does then get a little bit fiddly though, because if we have any other verb whose to form ends with es or as, we also have to drop the s. So for example, take the verb ouvrir, which means to open. That is an IR verb, but it conjugates like an ER verb, and so the to form is actually ouvre, not ouvri as you might expect. And because it ends with es, we have to remove the S in the imperative. Similarly, tu vas is you go, and because it ends with as in the imperative, we will drop the S. So, the imperative forms of ouvrir are ouvre, ouvrons, ouvrez. Once again, the nous and vous forms are exactly as you would expect them to be. And then aller is va, allons, and aller. So again, the only difference is the lack of S. And if all that wasn't fiddly enough for you, don't worry, because it gets better, because that S is then replaced if the verb is followed by I or en. So for example, go or go ahead in French is that very common expression, vas-y. And this is so common that you don't really have to learn it as a rule, right? You can just learn it as an expression. But this is why, if you just say va on its own, you have va, but when you add I, meaning go there or just go in general, you have to put an S in, vas-y. Similarly, speak about it is parlez-en, parlez-en. So on its own, speak is parle, no S. Followed by en, you add the S to make it easier to pronounce. So then we need to talk about word order, because this is where the imperative can get a little bit difficult, but don't worry, we're going to go through it slowly. So, as you see, in affirmative sentences, that's when you're telling someone to do something, object pronouns come after the verb. So normally in the indicative, object pronouns come before the verb, but in this case they're going to move. And the object pronouns me and te will each become moi and toi respectively. So, look at it is regarde le. So you look at it is tu le regardes. But in the imperative, the le is going to move to the end. Regarde-le. Notice as well there is a hyphen between the two. Help me is aidez-moi. So you help me is vous m'aidez. But one, we're going to move the object pronoun me to the end, and then that is going to become moi. Aidez-moi. Don't worry too much about this because you will just get used to hearing it. It will get to a point where aidez-me sounds really weird, right? It's something that comes quite naturally. Reflexive pronouns also come after the verb because they are also object pronouns, right? And again, me and te will become moi and toi. So sit down, which you may already know, is assieds-toi. So you sit down, tu t'assieds, sit down as a command, assieds-toi. Or of course, if you're speaking to a group of people, you sit down as a statement, vous vous asseyez, but as a command would be asseyez-vous. And let's have a wash, or let's wash ourselves, is lavons-nous, right? So as a statement, nous lavons, we wash ourselves. Let's have a wash, let's wash ourselves, lavons-nous. And if you have a sentence with a direct object pronoun and an indirect object pronoun, the direct object pronoun comes first. So that's quite a long explanation, which is why I've used abbreviations in the slide. But this is something which I think is best explained with examples, right? So give it to me. We have a direct object, it, that's the thing that is being given, and the indirect object, to me, I'm the person on the receiving end of the giving. There is therefore a direct and an indirect object pronoun. And the word order for these is as follows. Donne-le-moi. Donne-le-moi. Or of course, le could become la if the thing that we're giving is feminine. Similarly, show it to them is montrez-le-leur, or again, montrez-la-leur if the thing that you're showing is feminine. So essentially, what I've just told you is that for an imperative sentence, if you have an indirect object and a direct object pronoun, the word order is the same as English. There you go. In negative sentences, you'll be happy to know that the word order is the same as it would be in a regular statement. Plus, the pronouns don't change, so this probably will feel a little bit more familiar. So, don't look at it is ne le regarde pas. You don't look at it as a statement is tu ne le regardes pas. So the only difference is the fact that in the statement we have tu and the verb would end with an S. Don't help me, ne m'aidez pas. So in this sentence, there really is only one difference between the imperative and the indicative, and that's the use of the subject pronoun. Statement, vous ne m'aidez pas, you don't help me. Don't help me as a command, ne m'aidez pas. Don't sit down, ne t'assieds pas, ne t'assieds pas. So again, the only difference is that if it were a statement, it would be tu ne t'assieds pas. And let's not have a wash, which is probably something that you shouldn't say, but hey, why not, is ne nous lavons pas. Ne nous lavons pas. Then, of course, we need to talk about irregular verbs because many of them have irregular imperative forms. Not all of them, though. I say many, I should really put some. Because, for example, faire is just the same as the present tense indicative. Fait, faisons, faites. But your typically irregular verbs are typically irregular in the imperative. So, for example, être becomes soit, soyons, soyez. Avoir becomes est, ayons, ayez. And savoir becomes sache, sachons, sachez. Some of you may well notice a similarity here with the subjunctive, and that is indeed the case for these three verbs, but don't assume that all irregular verbs use their subjunctive forms in the imperative. It's just the case for these three as far as I'm aware. Also notice that there are actually differences. So for example, the tu form of avoir in the imperative et has no s, although in the subjunctive it does. And for savoir we have sache, again with no s, sachons, sachez. In the subjunctive that would be sachions, sachiez. So there are some subtle differences. However, it might help you to remember the imperative forms of these three verbs if you know the subjunctive. So let's have a look at some examples with those. Be careful. Soyez prudent, soyez prudent. This is something that you often see on the motorway, particularly if it's raining, for example. They'll have signs that say, soyez prudent, be careful. Don't be scared, n'aie pas peur. Remember that to be scared in French is to have fear, avoir peur, hence we're using the imperative form of avoir here. And know that we love you, sachez que nous vous aimons. What a lovely note to end on. So there we go, that's basically all you need to know about the imperative. There are some even more fiddly rules that even I didn't know. I was doing the research for this video and came across loads of random things that you just don't need to know. You know, they're just so insignificant that it's not worth putting them in a video. Having said that, if you are curious and you want to be absolute grandmaster of all things imperative, I've put a link in the description to a really nice page that explains not only the conjugations and everything, but also the use of the imperative in the spoken language, because people break the rules, right? And we don't often put 1,000 pronouns after the verb in spoken French, and sometimes people put liaison where they shouldn't. So that's a really good explanation. It is a website made for Finnish people, apparently, but it's all in French, so you don't need to be able to speak Finnish. Although if you do, that's very, very impressive. Finnish is a very difficult language. I don't really know why I'm speaking about Finnish at this point, so I'm going to let you go. As usual, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask. And until next time, à bientôt.